Every trader wants control, but control doesn't start with the market. It starts with the mind that meets it. Before every trade, there is a moment, small, quiet, and invisible, where emotion tries to take over. That moment decides everything. Most traders rush through it. They think preparation means opening charts, checking indicators, setting alerts. But the real preparation happens in silence. Because before you can control risk, you must first control state. Before you can trust your system, you must trust your focus. And before you can execute, you must breathe. The difference between reaction and readiness is only 90 seconds. 90 seconds to center yourself. 90 seconds to clear the noise. 90 seconds to step into the market as the version of you that is calm, grounded, and aware. This is not a checklist. It's not a superstition. It's a ritual. A 90-second reset that turns chaos into clarity. Because the pros don't prepare their trades first, they prepare their minds. This is Mind Over Markets. And this is the 90-second pre-trade ritual, V2.0. You sit at your desk. The monitors glow softly in the dim light of early morning. The market hasn't opened yet, but your mind already has. Thoughts start to race, plans, expectations, worries, memories of yesterday's mistakes. You think you're preparing to trade, but what you're really doing is reliving. Reliving every win, every loss, every emotion tied to your last position. Most traders believe preparation means checking charts, scanning setups, calculating risk. But what if preparation means something else? What if the most important part of your trading day happens before you ever touch the keyboard? Because the truth is simple. You don't trade the market, you trade your state of mind. And the state you enter determines the story that unfolds. That's why the 90-second ritual exists. 90 seconds that reset your mind, align your focus, and silence the noise before it becomes your decision. A minute and a half that separates impulse from intention. It sounds small, but the smallest pause can change everything. Because every mistake you've ever made began with a moment you didn't pause. You've seen it. You open a chart, your pulse quickens, your breathing changes. You convince yourself you see an opportunity. You click. And only afterward do you realize you weren't trading your system, you were trading your emotion. The market didn't trap you. Your state did. The ritual begins with awareness of that truth. It's not superstition. It's not some motivational routine. It's discipline embodied in time. 90 seconds where you become the observer again. Before we go into it, you need to understand something fundamental. The market doesn't test your strategy. It tests your state. Your charts may be perfect, but if your mind is chaotic, perfection collapses into confusion. Your setup can be flawless, yet a restless mind will still sabotage it. Because no trade exists in isolation, it exists inside the person pressing the button. If your state is calm, logic flows naturally. If your state is emotional, logic suffocates. That's why you need a ritual. Not to control the market, to control the only variable you truly can yourself. Let's talk about why ritual works. Ritual is different from routine. Routine is mechanical. Ritual is intentional. Routine checks the boxes. Ritual changes your state. When you repeat a ritual consciously, your nervous system begins to associate that sequence with focus, calm, readiness. You are in a real sense programming yourself. You are training your brain to shift from emotion to execution. And that shift begins with the body, because your body speaks to your mind louder than your thoughts ever will. A calm body tells your brain there is no threat. A tense body screams, we're in danger. And when the brain believes danger is near, it doesn't think, it reacts. That's why the first step of the 90-second ritual is physical. Before charts, before strategy, before screens, it's the breath. You take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a moment, and exhale slowly. You do it again and again. 3 breaths. 90 seconds is not about the clock, it's about connection. Connection to the present moment, to the body that trades before the mind catches up. As you breathe, your heart rate slows, your focus sharpens, your awareness expands from the chart to the space around you. You're no longer chasing signals, you're observing them. This is the foundation of discipline awareness before action. Now, the second step, check your state. Ask yourself silently but honestly, what state am I in? Calm or emotional, curious or fearful, clear or cluttered? Don't judge the answer, just acknowledge it. If you find tension, recognize it as information. Because emotion isn't the enemy, unconscious emotion is the. If you notice frustration or excitement, it's your mind telling you, I'm not neutral yet. That's your cue to pause. Professionals trade only from neutrality. They wait until their mind is clear enough that either direction feels fine, because neutrality equals power. When you can see opportunity and risk without leaning toward either, you're ready. That's the second 30 seconds of your ritual. A quick, honest check-in with your internal environment. It's like checking your instrument panel before takeoff, because you wouldn't fly if your systems were flashing red, so why trade when your emotions are? The next step is simple, but it's where discipline becomes tangible. Confirm your process. Look at your notes, your plan, your checklist, whatever structure you've built to keep you objective, and ask yourself 3 things. Does this setup match my plan? Is my risk clearly defined? Is my emotion neutral? If all 3 are true, you have permission to trade. If one fails, you wait. This isn't weakness, it's control. Because discipline isn't saying yes to trades, it's saying no until it's right. Every no saves you capital, both financial and emotional. Every wait builds trust in yourself. And trust is the most profitable position you can hold. You can't fake calmness. You can only build it. And building it begins with repetition. That's what ritual does. It builds internal consistency. The market is chaos and your mind mirrors what it faces. But when you insert structure, 90 seconds of structure, you train your nervous system to stabilize no matter what's happening outside. You are no longer reactive. You are responsive. The final step of the ritual is the anchor. Once you've checked your body, your state, and your process, you speak your intention. A short phrase that reminds your mind who is in control. You might say, I don't predict, I prepare. Or I trade my plan, not my emotion. Or simply clarity first. It doesn't matter what the words are. What matters is the meaning you attach to them. Because meaning directs focus, and focus shapes behavior. That single sentence becomes a mental switch. It tells your brain the preparation is done. Now the process begins. And in that moment, you step into the market not as a gambler chasing movement, but as a professional expressing mastery. When you live this ritual long enough, something interesting happens. You begin to feel when your state is off before the market reminds you. You'll sense the difference between clarity and chaos instinctively. That awareness is what separates consistency from volatility. 90 seconds. It doesn't sound like much, but it rewires your perception of time. Because when you learn to pause, 90 seconds can feel infinite, a space where emotion loses its power and intention takes over. Most traders never create that space. They rush, they react, they convince themselves that speed equals opportunity. But the professionals know patience is the ultimate speed. They move slowly before they move quickly. They breathe before they act. They reset before they risk. That's what the 90-second ritual represents, the art of slowing down just enough to see clearly. When you trade from clarity, time stretches. You notice more. You interpret better. You execute cleaner. It's not about finding the perfect trade. It's about removing the noise that hides it. Every great performance in any field, sports, music, medicine, begins with a pre-performance ritual. It's not superstition, it's priming. The body and mind synchronize. The chaos outside fades. The inner rhythm takes over. Trading is no different. Your ritual is your synchronization. Without it, you're at the mercy of every emotional fluctuation. With it, you build a shield around your awareness. Because you don't control the market, you control your readiness for it. That's what this ritual teaches you. You can't prevent fear, but you can meet it calmly. You can't avoid losses, but you can face them objectively. You can't predict outcomes, but you can control how you respond. That's mastery, not of the market, but of yourself. Your ritual is a doorway. Every time you walk through it, you leave behind the noise of the outside world, the news, the fear, the need to prove something, and you enter a quieter place inside yourself. It's a place where the outcome doesn't define you, where clarity feels better than excitement. But to reach that space, you have to understand something most traders never realize. You are not your thoughts, and you are not your emotions. You are the observer behind them. The ritual is what brings you back to that observer. That's why it works. Because trading isn't about controlling markets, it's about controlling awareness. And awareness is built through repetition. Every time you breathe consciously before a trade, you train your mind to stay grounded. Every time you check your emotional state, you remind your nervous system that calmness is your baseline. Every time you follow your process instead of your impulse, you strengthen a pathway in your brain, a link between discipline and safety. That's how consistency is built. Not through strategy upgrades, not through more analysis, but through the repeated act of choosing clarity over emotion. You're literally rewiring your brain. The mind learns through association. If you enter trades in chaos, your brain associates trading with stress. But if you enter through ritual, it associates trading with calm. Over time, your body learns to respond to uncertainty with focus, not fear. That's why professionals seem unshakable. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they've trained what those feelings mean. Fear still comes, but it no longer equals danger. Excitement still appears, but it no longer equals opportunity. The ritual creates separation between emotion and action. It gives emotion a place to exist without control. 90 seconds, that's all it takes to remind your body that you are safe, that clarity is near, that discipline still leads. Let's go deeper. Most traders think discipline means restriction, denying impulses, forcing control, suppressing emotion. But true discipline is freedom. Freedom from reactivity. Freedom from self-sabotage. Freedom from needing the market to validate who you are. The ritual gives you that freedom because it reminds you you already have control. Not over price, not over outcomes, but over your process. And when you trade from process, results take care of themselves. The hardest part is remembering that before the trade begins. That's why ritual matters. It's not there to motivate you, it's there to protect you. Every time you pause before you click, you're telling your mind, I am in control of me. And that statement is everything. Because once you lose control of yourself, you lose control of your risk. And risk unmanaged is chaos disguised as opportunity. You've felt that before. You enter early, the market turns, you tell yourself to wait, you double down, you widen stops. You're not trading anymore. You're negotiating with emotion. The ritual stops that negotiation before it starts. It redefines entry as a decision, not a reaction. A trader who trades without a ritual is a trader driven by chance. A trader who lives their ritual is a trader guided by structure. Structure doesn't make you rigid. It makes you stable. You don't need to eliminate uncertainty. You just need to be certain in yourself. That's the heart of discipline. Now let's talk about what happens inside those 90 seconds, not just physically, but neurologically. When you pause and breathe, your brain shifts from the amygdala, the emotional center, to the prefrontal cortex, the rational center. That shift takes about 90 seconds. That's the biological foundation of your ritual. In those 90 seconds, the chemicals that drive impulsive behavior begin to dissipate. Cortisol lowers, adrenaline fades, clarity returns. It's not magic, it's science. You are giving your nervous system the space to recalibrate. You are changing chemistry through consciousness. That's why even a short pause can save a trade, and sometimes a career. The trader who reacts is ruled by biology. The trader who breathes is guided by awareness. Your ritual is your bridge between the two. Now think about what happens when you skip it. You roll out of bed, check your phone, see a chart moving, and within seconds you're in. No breathing, no checking, no awareness, just motion. That's not trading, that's gambling dressed as productivity. And every time you act like that, your brain learns to associate trading with speed and urgency. That's how addiction forms. You start chasing dopamine instead of data. The ritual rewires that pattern. It reminds you that trading is not reaction, it's reflection. You pause, you center, you act. The ritual teaches your brain patience, and patience is what separates impulsive traders from disciplined professionals. But here's something most people never realize. The ritual doesn't just prepare you for entry. It also prepares you for acceptance. When you enter with awareness, you're ready for any outcome, win or loss, because you've already aligned with process, not ego. Loss doesn't shake you. Win doesn't inflate you. You stay steady, grounded, neutral. That neutrality is your superpower, because neutrality means freedom from emotional bias. You start to understand that every trade is just one event in an infinite series. You stop trying to make this trade the one. You stop trying to force meaning into randomness. That's where consistency lives in detachment. And that detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. When you practice your ritual, you're not trying to suppress feeling, you're learning to let feeling pass. Emotion is like a wave. It only lasts if you chase it. 90 seconds of awareness allows it to break and fade. You remain. That's the mind of a professional. Now imagine your day with this practice. You sit down, you breathe, you check your state, you confirm your process, you anchor your intention. The world slows down, noise disappears. The trade ahead feels smaller, not because it doesn't matter, but because it no longer defines you. That's what freedom feels like. Most traders spend years trying to control outcomes. Few spend minutes trying to control awareness. But the second path is the only one that leads to mastery, because the market mirrors your mind. If you're chaotic, it looks chaotic. If you're calm, it reveals its rhythm. The ritual tunes you to that rhythm. You begin to see the market not as an opponent, but as a reflection. It's not something to conquer, it's something to understand. You start realizing that trading isn't about entries or exits, it's about presence. How present are you when you trade? Are you here now or lost in what happened or what might happen? The ritual pulls you into the now. And the now is where precision lives. When you're truly present, decisions feel simple, not because they're easy, but because they're clean. Clean decisions create clean results. You stop second guessing, you stop overanalyzing, you stop chasing, you begin executing. That's the point of the ritual, to transform you from a thinker into a performer. Not someone who reacts, but someone who responds. When you make this ritual part of your identity, something powerful happens. You no longer need to remind yourself to do it. You crave it. Your body recognizes it, as the signal that focus begins. The breathing, the questions, the checklist, they become triggers for confidence. Confidence not in outcomes, but in your ability to stay centered no matter what happens. That's real confidence, the kind that doesn't need results to exist. And that kind of confidence cannot be shaken because it's built from discipline, not dopamine. The market rewards those who can act without being owned by their emotions. That's what you're training in those 90 seconds. It's simple, it's small, but it's everything. You don't need a new indicator. You need a new identity, not as a trader who reacts, but as a trader who responds. And that identity begins with a breath. So tomorrow morning, before the charts, before the headlines, before the noise, pause. Close your eyes, breathe deeply. Ask yourself who you are trading as today, the emotional you or the disciplined you. Choose the second. Check your state. Confirm your process. Anchor your mind. Then open your charts. You'll feel the difference immediately. The noise will sound softer. The patterns will feel clearer. And your actions will feel smoother. Because when your mind is aligned, everything else aligns with it. That's the real purpose of the 90-second pre-trade ritual. It's not to prepare you for the market, it's to prepare you for yourself. The market is neutral. Only you bring emotion to it. The ritual takes that emotion, acknowledges it, and lets it pass. That's why it works. Because it's not about being perfect, it's about being aware. And awareness repeated daily becomes discipline. Discipline repeated daily becomes identity. And identity, once aligned with clarity, becomes freedom. That's the long game, the game of mastery. So before your next trade, remember you don't need to do more. You just need to pause for 90 seconds, to breathe, to reset, to return to the version of you that trades with patience, not pressure, to remind yourself that discipline isn't built in the moment of execution, it's built in the moments before. 90 seconds. That's all it takes. 90 seconds to turn chaos into clarity. 90 seconds to turn reaction into readiness. 90 seconds to remind yourself that you're the constant and the market is just noise. This is your edge. This is your discipline. This is your ritual. And it begins the moment you decide to breathe. This is mind over markets. In the end, discipline isn't built on strategy. It's built on silence, the silence before every decision. When you take those 90 seconds, you're not just calming your breath. You're reprogramming your entire trading identity. You're teaching your mind that clarity is safety and stillness is strength. Each pause strengthens trust. Each breath separates you from impulse. Each ritual reminds you that patience is your real edge. You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to control who you are before it begins. And the more you honor that space, the more that space begins to honor you. Because every consistent trader knows the truth. Discipline isn't built in the trade. It's built in the moments before it. So tomorrow morning, before the screens, before the noise, before the rush, pause, breathe, align. Trade from clarity, not from chaos. 90 seconds. One ritual. Endless difference. This is mind over markets. And this is where discipline begins.